I think are actually a better way to operate that create mutual win-wins. As long as an agency, we're covering our costs. We have to make sure we're doing that. But if we're doing that, then I love being in a position to say, if we're generating you more money and providing more value, instead of us getting paid less and you getting paid more, how about we all get paid more? And those deals work really well, I've come to find. And I think it's a better way to operate because, again, you have mutually aligned interests.
Hello and welcome to the eCommerce podcast. We believe that there is more than enough content focused on e-commerce marketing and not enough content celebrating the real heroes of e-commerce, those running the operation. Each week, we find and interview an e-commerce operations expert to share the secrets behind how some of this industry's most exciting businesses are run. I'm your host, Norbert Strappler, the CEO of SyncSpider. Hello and welcome to another eCommerce podcast. Today I'm talking to Evan, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Stealth Venture Labs. Hello, Evan. Great to have you here.
Great to be here. Happy to join.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure. I mean, you are a specialist or have a team of seasoned e-commerce and marketing professionals with decades of experience in scaling brands. So this is really great. And you have generated over $2 billion in online sales over the careers and brands that you support. And this is really, really great. So tell us a bit more about yourself, about your company, and all this kind of thing.
Yeah. So myself, I've been in internet marketing and primarily subscription marketing for 20 years this year, actually, going all the way back to when you had to sign deals and fax insertion orders with paper and negotiate for just, specific gender traffic, if that was even available.
The great time when it comes to sales.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It was a great time to be in sales. Absolutely. Ad sales was amazing. So and I've been doing this for a handful of brands, a lot of women's fashion brands in the subscription place, online grocery company named Thrive Market. I was their chief marketing officer for a while. And since then, I've been running with my business partner, Brent Freeman, Stealth Venture Labs, which is originally, I should say, was a company that was put together with a lot of people from the industry that were really good at incubating and building brands, and we would come in and be their entire marketing team, running their website, their advertising, their development, everything, email, all of it. And then actually about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, we decided to open up a more traditional advertising agency arm called our Growth Lab, which is just focused more narrowly on paid advertising channels, creative development, and optimization. And basically, since then, we've been on a really awesome run working with some of the best brands, HelloFresh, Crocs, handful of others in the past 2.5 years. And we just basically help brands, do the best job they can at advertising. And a little bit about what makes us different is I've been running in-house teams most of my career. I don't believe in a agency profile that focuses on just doing, but really having awesome people that are really good at what they do and people that I would trust managing $1 million, $2 million, $5 million a month advertising accounts, and just hire those people instead of people that are really smart, but then they tell other people what to do. So I like to have really smart people with their hands on their keyboards, and that's what we're doing with Stealth.
That's cool. That's really cool. How do you set yourself apart from your competition? What is the difference? Why you? Why not the others?
Yeah, so for us, I would say the biggest draw is, myself and my business partner and vast majority of the team, we have not been in sort of the professional services industry forever. We've been inside of brands. And when you're inside of a brand, sort of vertically focused on full stack sort of media buying, where you're not just a Facebook buyer or not just an SEM buyer, you're really a marketer. I gravitate towards those people because I've seen the success. I've managed when I was in women's fashion with a company that's now known as Textile Fashion Group, with these brands like Just Fab and Fabletics and all these things. We had a worldwide presence. We had an office in Spain and Berlin and in the US. We're managing about $120 million a year in advertising inside the company. We had no outside agencies except for TV buying and procurement. I just see how that's done. And I believe in that model for being on the service provider side, like having marketers that think that way, having marketers that have raised brands from the inside. So they're not just like, hey, what's your CAC target and what's your media spend? We really look at your business as like, how do we grow it as if we're sitting inside of your business? And my background, I haven't spent my career being in the service provider world. I've spent my career being inside of businesses. And I think that gives us a unique perspective compared to a lot of agencies that just sort of saw an opportunity or see an opportunity to be like, hey, I'm going to get media buyers and there's a need for this. I'm going to sell media buying services and agency services. And that's all that they've done. And that's what they've pegged their career on. So a lot of great firms out there that have done that. But what makes us different, I think, is being vertically centric with a lot of our thought processes and sort of being growth minded, I guess, natively.
Yeah, that's cool. Really, really an interesting approach, because actually you are an agency. So you are from outside of the company, and you need to think as a part of the company, which is really great. How do you charge your services? Is this something that you say you have a fixed rate, or you are just commission based? What's the typical way you go when you work with a new brand?
Yeah. So, the fun part is, since we're not a huge company, we have about 35 people, for 35 full-time employees, a couple of contractors we keep close to the vest. We are really flexible. So we charge, I'd say 90% of the time, it's not too different than any other model where we charge a percent of media that we manage. But we don't charge more. If you have 5 channels or 10 channels that you're having us work on, we don't charge more per channel or anything like that, just like a flat percent of media fee. And then sort of the variable piece is, some brands do their creative development in-house. Some brands want us to do it. That changes the pay a little bit, or that changes the compensation a little bit. But honestly, I'm receptive to all types of packages, and I recognize that there's got to be business sense. So I try to find like win-win scenarios, really. So we have brands that come to us and say, hey, well, can you do something that is a flat fee retainer and then a percentage of the upside if you guys, beat CAC goal or generate extra revenue? We can, carve off a little bit of the extra profits, right? Which I think I like that type of model if we're able to run a business where we have cost too. We're a for-profit company. If we have a business where we can get our main coverage and a little bit of profit off of our retained fees, and then have upside by improving their business, that creates a better alignment. So we entertain those deals all the time, because one thing about the agency world, which I'm sure you're familiar of, if you're just a percent of media company, you're not really incentivized to beat CAC goal. Because if you spend less money and get them their customers, guess what? You make less money as a company. But
actually, this is why I asked that question, because I know it from the agency perspective. The more media you manage, the more money you get paid, because you have a percentage share on the media.
Yeah. So I've been working deals lately that I really like and that have been really good for everybody involved, which says, hey, your CAC goal, let's use a hypothetical. Your CAC goal is $50. Here's the maximum media you could spend. Let's just say it's $500,000 or whatever, $50,000, so they could get 1,000 customers in that case. We'll say, hey, if we get customers for $40 instead and get you your 1,000 customers and only spend 40 grand instead of 50 grand, in that example, we would make less money, right? But I say, well, how about this? You give us, since we saved you $10 in CAC, how about you give us an extra $2 or $3 per customer if we hit $40 instead? So then their effective CAC is 43, better than 50, and it incentivizes us to actually make margin improvements without taking money out of our own pockets. And those deals, I think, are actually a better way to operate that create mutual win-wins. As long as an agency, we're covering our costs. We have to make sure we're doing that. But if we're doing that, then I love being in a position to say, if we're generating you more money and providing more value, instead of us getting paid less and you getting paid more, how about we all get paid more? And those deals work really well, I've come to find. And I think it's a better way to operate because, again, you have mutually aligned interests.
Yeah, I fully need to agree. This is very seldom, to be honest, to see this. Typically, you just have, this media share in percentage and maybe some kind of flat fee. But to have specific numbers that you agree on and make a bonus out of it, this is really interesting. But it only works if you have a good number of media or a good number of annual media spend, so that you really can make those calculations. Which brings me to the next question. From where does it make sense for you to start? So what is your minimum budget that you say, okay, this is something we try?
Yeah, so I like to say, the minimum budget, I would say brands that are spending 30,000 USD, 40,000 USD a month, good place for us to jump in. We take smaller clients if they have, say they're coming to market. Obviously, they have no history. They're trying to jump in with like, hey, we have a $25,000 or $50,000 budget over the first 3 months. Can you help? We do that every so often too. But you need to have money to be able to test. Testing costs money. Exploring media channels costs money. I always like to tell people coming to market, if you plan on coming to market and immediately hitting profitability, 99% of the time you're going to be disappointed, just because brands don't come to market unless you have like a celebrity backing and a bunch of free PR behind it. You don't come out of the gate just crushing your goals. You have to have the willingness to experiment. You have to have a firm like us that is able to work the problem and focus on driving results. But if you have $25,000, $30,000 a month to spend on media, that's where we start. And as long as we're making, we kind of have a plan where we start with like a $2,500 retained fee, and then we do 3 months, then month-to-month contracts, and from there, those are for the sort of smaller accounts. We hope to grow you, and our goal is to grow you to where you're spending $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 a month with us, which is great because then we're getting you to spend $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 in media, and everybody's doing really well. But companies got to start somewhere. They need broad support. And, even if they're paying us $3,000, $4,000 a month, that is way cheaper than like half of a really good employee, like a really good media buyer, way cheaper than that. And you're getting several good media buyers. You're getting a strategist. You're getting graphic design work. You're getting oversight from executives that have worked at, multi-billion-dollar companies. So we always like to say, hey, the first 3 months are definitely an investment. We're here to make you money. We're here to grow your brand. But they have to have, we do look for brands that have a desire and the means to grow. So, they're either pretty well capitalized. Like they're like, hey, we want to be spending $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in a few months. They are fundraising with a good outlook. So they're going to be bringing in money for capital and growth. And, they want to grow. We don't really gravitate towards like the lifestyle, like nothing against that. But like the brands are like, hey, yeah, we just want to spend like $20,000, $30,000 a month for the next 3 years. That pays for my house and pays for my kids to go to school. Like not as interesting to us because we are growth minded. We want to keep, upping the bar and beating year-over-year comps.
And what is the specialization? So are you on e-commerce or is it also for, let's say, lead generation or SaaS applications that you market for?
I would say I believe, and me and the team believe, that marketing is somewhat universal. All you're trying to do is grab someone's attention, discuss with them in the terms that they need to understand the product and get them to transact. So I like to say we can transcend a lot of different verticals, but the reality is, from my background, consumer packaged goods, highly focused, and subscription commerce, highly focused. From my background, a lot of the team's background, a majority of our portfolio falls into e-commerce or subscription commerce, but we do some tech media buying. We do app installs, so digital products in that case. And we've spent a lot of time doing lead gen for a couple of other clients as well, for like finance leads and things like that. All it is slightly different, higher customer acquisition costs allowable. If we're working with a brand that could pay $1,000 for a qualified lead because they sell them, technology that they're going to make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on. That works for us too. It's just, you're only talking about maybe 10, 20, 30 sales a month and you're optimizing to big dollars, but we take that on as well and everybody wins. So I would say right now, you look at our portfolio, heavy bias towards e-commerce, heavy bias towards subscription commerce. But then I feel like we could take on pretty much anything.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, there are a lot of listeners that we have that are started recently with web shop or that are in a very low range. What do you recommend to them in terms of ad spend? I mean, they have, as far as I've seen in the past, let's say 1,000, 2,000 euros or dollars per month to invest into media, and that's even much. So I've even seen customers with $300, $400, $500.
Yep.
What can you tell them? Is it even, does it make sense to fire up that money or?
I mean, I certainly believe in advertising. I think if you're talking budgets of, call it less than $5,000 a month, let's just say that, in dollars, I would say that there's an importance of, depending on your brand, there's nuance to this, but most of the time it's focused on search. Search is always going to show you the demand for a product like yours. Work with a search expert, specifically SEM. Not SEO. I can talk about SEO separately. I'm not saying don't do SEO, but I'm saying SEO is a long-term investment. Yeah. SEM gets you answers more quickly. But focus on efficient keywords. If you got the ability to create long tail keywords, find a niche that's hyper profitable, so you can jump into other channels. Use that as a breeding ground to do so. If you're self-funding your venture, absolutely. And long tail basic SEM management, without getting into Performance Max and all the different nuances and all the cool things that you can do, say, within Google, even just learning the basics of how to do SEM is not, if you're able to build a web store and able to oversee that and have a mind for running a digital brand, you can figure out a lot of basic SEM and just see how your product sticks. See if you can get your product in hand at an efficient ad rate, and then find a way to jump into other channels. Facebook, awesome channel up until about 2 years ago or whatever, a year and a half ago at this point. Now it's a challenge to launch on Facebook with paid. I'm not saying don't do it, but you have to take a similar approach. You have to find a very targeted audience that's hyper, influence on your product. It's going to take a long time, and $500 or $1,000 goes quick on Facebook. If you're talking about having to only do $30 a day, and depending on your allowable customer acquisition costs, that could take a long time to just get a customer, and you're not going to get a lot of learning from that. But doesn't mean don't do it. But I say start with search, because you could find a demand-driven audience that's looking for you. Use that to build up the coffers and work your way up to other channels. Work on your organic presence. So creating a really fun organic presence on your paid social, your Facebook, your IG, TikTok, fantastic these days. Data showing that customers are gravitating towards TikTok in a huge way. It's a fun fun social platform leading to fun content. If you got a product that could go there, create an organic presence and start working that angle too. But work to get your budget up. And if you're bootstrapping this, like a lot of young entrepreneurs are, be focused on efficiency first. Try to get your huge ROAS to turn your $500 into $2,500, get a 5x ROAS on that. Then next month, try to do $2,000, see if you can turn it into 10 and maintain ROAS, and just keep growing and growing and growing until you create a machine. And last piece I'll say on this, I see that brands, like if I were to say there's a threshold, and again, there's outliers to anything I'm saying, right? But you don't have an established marketing engine until you're really spending, call it $25,000 a month and no less between Facebook and Google. At that point, when you're spending almost $1,000 a day, you have a foundation for a marketing engine. Now, you always want to grow, but you have product market fit. You're able to do that. You're making money. You're building a business. You have something. If you're less than that, doesn't mean you don't have something, but it means you still got a ways to go.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. And a very interesting question is, you have, let's say, you have the budget, you have a new brand. How is what do you think is it possible for every brand that has the budget to be there and to make a revenue machine? Or are there still blockers that will hit you so hard that you will not succeed?
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome question. The best answer I have for that is we here at Stealth, I'll say, we employ something that we call the 5 criteria for product market fit. It's basically looking at what are the things that we see time and time and time again that lead to businesses being successful. And my business partner, Brent, it's a funny story, if you don't mind me saying.
That's good. I love stories.
Funny's good, right?
Even if they're, or especially when they are funny.
My business partner, Brent, years ago, he literally went up rented a cabin on a lake, and went up there to try to think about what has he discovered that are universally sound as the things that lead to a product having product market fit. And he thought for a few days. He disconnected his phone and it was just up in nature. I'm not exaggerating this. And he's an awesome guy. He came back with these 5 things that we've seen time and time again. Depending on how well your business serves these 5 things, will lead to a greater likelihood of success. And those 5 things are, and these are not necessarily in a particular order, but one is having a passionate audience for your product. So you want a group of people to really dig what you're putting out there and really enjoy that and be in something that drives people. You have things, if you're selling pencils, if you're selling paper on the internet, you got to have, something that makes you stand out, that drives passion. Art and everything goes to people's emotions. So you need a passionate group of people behind your product. And with that passionate group of people, they also have to be, so that's number 1, passion. Number 2, having a good market size. So you have people that are really passionate about, I'll use this example, underwater basket weaving. You could get them, but there's not a lot of them. It's not a huge audience, but they love the product. So fits really well with being a passionate audience, not necessarily a big one. So you want to have a big audience that you can, have subscribe to your product. Meal at home companies. People like to eat. People like to eat certain types of meals, and everybody generally wants food. Great idea. Great audience. You have your entire audience is everybody at that point. You need to have something unique with your product. You need to have something that makes you stand out. Me too. And these are things that there's always room for another competitor. But if you are a copy of your competitor, top to bottom, you're not going to win. Your competitor's probably going to be able to do it better because they have better supply chain. They have a head start. What makes you unique? What makes you somewhat different in the space? Finding something that you could say only we do, or only we have, or only we contribute to makes a difference to help you stand out. It's a marketing point. It's something that says, hey, well, why should I try this brand instead of that brand? Well, this brand also gives 5% of its profits back to this social cause, which I would rather do than not. Great. Something that makes them unique. And it could just be part of their product, could be part of what they stand for, anything. Number 4, this is I feel like this is the most obvious, but it's also one that I see missed a lot for scale: compelling unit economics. You need to be out there with a product that operates at sort of a 50%, ideally, or better gross profit margin before customer acquisition costs and team and everything, just getting it to the customer. If you're selling something for $100, it can't cost you more than $50 to get it over to them, because then you're not going to have any room for growth marketing, which is a customer acquisition cost beneath that. And subscriptions obviously give you a lot of revenue downstream, but you got to have compelling unit economics if you're trying to go to market or see the road to have that. Brands that have 20% or 30% gross profit margins doesn't leave you a lot for advertising when all is said and done. And then the last piece that we have is it's got to solve what we call, solving a market pain. I'll use meal at home as another good example. People don't want to go to the grocery store, or they can't find the foods that they like at the grocery store. So the market pain that a meal at home company solves, they deliver you good food to your doorstep. Like, you save time, you potentially and usually save money, and you eat better. Like, that's a huge pain that is now lifted off of the consumer's list, and that's why they like your product. Or same with just coffee, getting coffee delivered at home. Like, instead of getting a $5 or €5, crazy cup of coffee at a fancy coffee shop, why not just get it delivered to your home and enjoy it at home? It solves a pain. You get your caffeine. Everybody wins. So you got to have something that makes people be like, okay, this is really great for my lifestyle. It saves me time. It gives me time back. It saves me money. It solves a problem of my own. That's why I like your product. You hit well on all 5 of those things. You have a product that I think has a really good shot of being successful in the marketplace.
Okay, great explanation. Really love that. It's true. It's simply true. So if all those criteria are met, I think there is literally no chance that you lose when you put the marketing budget on the plate. One question to Facebook. We see a lot of people running ads on Facebook, and I heard from nearly everyone the prices went insane past 2 years. You said it as well. Do you have a feeling how much did it raise?
Well, we've seen, so we've been able to get some pretty good internal data from clients that we've had for multiple years, sort of looking at same on same audiences over a period of time. The best number I have, which is really looking at sort of the past sort of 6 months, well, now I guess more like 8 months of history. We've seen about on same traffic, about a 40 to 60% increase on CPMs. Yeah. And you see some seasonality going into the holiday season, right? Because holiday season, Christmas, holiday gift giving, there's companies that spend 50% of their marketing budget in November and December. Yeah. So that jacks ad rates up. What we didn't see is usually, and I've seen this for 19 out of the past 20 years, like honestly, December 26th, ad rates get better. Christmas is over, that pushes over. New year, new you, different type of buyer right now, but ad rates drop down. You can measure that every year on Facebook. If you're a brand that's been doing it for 10 years, I guarantee you look at your same ad rates from December 1st through 25th and December 26th through say January 15th or something, you will see historically a big drop in CPMs on the same traffic. Now, that drop off didn't really happen. Ad rates just kind of stayed there. And everybody was like, all right, for brands that don't play in the holiday season, because like subscription companies, subscriptions aren't really a gift to give usually. And we work with a lot of subscription companies, so they don't really play heavy in the holiday season. So they're waiting for December 26th, like, okay, now it's time to get ready. That didn't happen this year. And that was the first year in 20 years I didn't really see a marketed drop in CPMs, which just tells me Facebook's really trying to chase revenue or trying to create more ad units or somewhere in between. But that's the best number I have, is like 40 to 60% increase in about an 8-month period, sort of going back to the beginning of Q4, end of Q3 last year, on same audiences, without that dip off that you usually get, that correction you usually get when the new year starts. So,
yeah, this is really insane. We've seen that as well, and a lot of our customers told us the same thing, that those rates really, really were dramatically higher than compared to the past. As a digital expert, what do you think about automations? Using automations, making automations happy, working?
I think, and when you say automations, do you mean automations in like, say, ad bidding and buying strategies, things like that?
In general, in business-wise operations. So let's say in marketing, in e-commerce, in connecting different tools with each other.
Yep.
How important is that?
It's so important. You want to talk about being like, it's actually one of those things that brands, when they come to market, just if they're talking about automation throughout the business, I always try to tell people, I give people a couple of suggestions on learning how to use some basic things like Zapier and a couple of other tools like that, and get automation going from the get-go that are routine things that keep your business going. And that's things like, say, reporting, daily sales. I'm a hyper data focused person. My background is actually in data and data science before I really got into managing businesses. So I'm a huge proponent of creating automation that gives you as a business owner more insights into your business. Losing track of your business KPIs only gets easier to lose track of your business the bigger you grow. Meaning, when you're 3 people working out of your garage, easy to understand how the business is going. You're looking at 4 different reports. You're pulling up your Shopify. You're pulling up Facebook. And you're pulling up Google Analytics. And you're like, great. Now, bigger you get, you're tracking, well, where's my inventory? Is it sitting on a boat somewhere? What am I buying? Where do I need to buy? When do I need to buy? I need to do financial planning and analysis. I need to understand how my cash flow is going to work this year. When do I got to raise money? Do I need to raise money? And how much money do I need to raise? And all these things, as you grow and grow your business, automating the kinds of triggered alerts for you to say, oh, I need to look at this because I had budgeted for our cash balance to be at $200,000 at the end of this month, and we're at $150,000 of cash. Where did that extra $50,000 go? And having an alert that puts that front and center as an operator is important. So I love telling people, when you're starting a business, automate as much as you can, because these little routine things that you have to pay somebody for or you have to do yourself. Like, I talk to people all the time. They're like, the first thing I do every day is I get up, I copy and paste this, put it in my Google Sheet, and then I copy this over here and put it over there. And then I copy and paste this and send it to an email to this person. I'm like, you can literally automate all of that and then save yourself an hour a day of useless work that doesn't drive your business forward. So there are so many tools that could just make your life easier and focus on what you want to see. And one thing I do when I have friends and entrepreneurs coming to market, I sit with them and say, here are your real KPIs for your business. These are the 5 things or 6 things or 10 things you need to monitor depending on the business, but you always need to be monitoring your cash level. You need to be monitoring your and with that cash level, your restricted capital, working capital versus free cash. You need to be monitoring your inventory, where it's at, especially if you're in consumer packaged goods, because missing your inventory or if it's sitting someplace where it's not supposed to, you could buy early, you wrap up cash, insure a product. You could buy late and hope it gets there on time, and you don't, have a situation where you don't have product to sell. So you got to keep track of that. You got to keep track of your blended marketing KPIs. So in-channel performance, in-channel metrics, not as reliable as they used to be, obviously, especially on Facebook. I mean, it used to be so solid, 10, 5% discrepancy. Now 30, 40, 50% discrepancies because of reporting. So now you got to be looking at your blended marketing metrics and then be laser focused on how that changes over time and why, and ask why. But you can automate most of that to where, as an operator and as a team, you get that stuff sent to you with very out of the box reporting tools. Google Data Studio, hooked up with Zapier, pulling stuff in, learning basics about just how to send stuff. Like, you can have reports sent to your email, have a script that can take that, put that in a consolidated Google Sheet for you, so you're not copying and pasting. Anybody can learn that stuff, and it just saves you so much time. It might be 15 minutes a day, but guess what? 15 minutes a day is an hour, almost an hour and a half a week. Times 52 weeks, that's over 100 hours. That's almost 100 hours a year of time that you're not pushing your business forward. You're just trying to keep the pieces together.
And then just calculate the time that you are costing the companies. So this is, I mean, and even if it's just $40 or $50 per hour that you as a CEO are charging for yourself, or calculating for yourself, it's 100 hours. You can pay already 1 month of a freelancer to put all in this automations.
Yeah, and not to mention the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost, if you're a CEO and you had 100 extra hours a year to put into driving partnerships or improving your rates with your vendors or driving the business forward and not copying and pasting stuff, like you could really change your business. But instead, everyone gets stuck on like, I have to copy and paste this, otherwise my business doesn't work. I'm like, automate that stuff. Automate it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that calculation because we have it on our website of SingSpider. We have the calculation actually for an employee that needs to copy paste an order from Amazon to the ERP software for shipment. And it's 5 minutes per order copy pasting. And if you have 10 orders per day, it's already 50 minutes per day copy pasting of an employee. And this calculated on top, and it's so expensive. It just doesn't make sense.
And that's a great way to save money when you're coming to market. Like when you're bootstrapping your business, don't discount how much money you could save by automating and evaluating those menial tasks that you're doing, and they're adding up. It can be such a lift. So
cool. Evan, last question for today. Who has taught you the most about e-commerce in your career?
Interesting question. I would say the most I've learned about e-commerce would have to be Adam Goldenberg, who is the CEO at Textile Fashion Group, one of the two CEOs at Textile Fashion Group. I met him. I started working for him when I was 20 years old. He taught me the most about e-commerce and business. As somebody that I just basically worked alongside him for almost 15 years, helping him raise hundreds of millions of dollars for textile, learning more and more about how to run a business, how to be a great leader, how to evaluate how business is doing, and how to be an awesome marketer and just create in an industry where I really got to see. I was fortunate to see internet advertising really when it was like at its toddler stage. I wasn't at the very beginning in the late 90s before the boom, but I was there in 2001, 2002, and seeing where it's going. And that's just been an awesome way to understand sort of where it started, where it's been, and where it's going. And Adam really impressed upon me a lot of great business fundamentals for just simply how to manage and run a business, how to create and build a marketing engine that starts returning money, and then how to be responsible on tracking KPIs as a hyper analytical person, because that tells the story. Data, in the end of the day, my belief is data itself is pure in its storytelling, and it asks the most questions as to why it creates the questions as to why something is the way it is. But data in its purest form really doesn't lie. It could be manipulated, it could be spun, it could be changed, but it doesn't lie. And I learned that after working with him for 15 years, just sort of like, this is how you picture data, this is how you do it, and this is how you apply it to marketing.
Okay, thank you very much. That's really great. Evan, thanks so much for your time. It was really a pleasure talking to you. And I really like the informations we got today. So like ad spend, it of course needs to be a huger amount of money to really succeed, but it will work if your product is market fit. If you have those 5 criteria that sees that the product is market fit, then it will work. And of course, you can also put lower budget into this, but you are maybe not yet market fit, or you are maybe not yet in the right position to really grow. But if you want to grow, of course, you need some media budget to really put in that investment. And of course, what I learned, and I like this as well, you need at least 50% of margin to really see if it works. So if it's just a 20 or 30% that you have, you will not be able to put as many marketing budget as you should to really grow your business. And Absolutely. Of course, I love that automation is key to success. This is a very important thing also for us. Thank you very much. Guys, and if you liked it, just subscribe to our podcast, eCommerce Podcast, and do a review. Would love to see that. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of the eCom Ops podcast. If you enjoyed listening and would like us to find and interview more e-commerce operations experts, please search for eCom Ops podcast in your favorite podcast listening app, and then subscribe, rate, and review. Until next time.